Hi everyone, and welcome to Joe Reviews. Today I'll be reviewing 3 different Sonos speakers: the Beam Gen 2, Sonos Sub Gen 3, and the One SL speakers. I've been using the setup for almost a year, and this might be the favorite thing I own. If you watched my last video, you'll know I had Best Buy Total Tech, which I took advantage of for installation. 2 things you need to set up Sonos in your house is the Sonos app and a good Wi-Fi connection. Sonos relies heavily on Wi-Fi for their speakers. It looks like they're becoming more acceptable of Bluetooth, but for now they still require Wi-Fi for the majority of their speakers. Once you have the app downloaded, then you begin setting up your speakers. I think it does a good job of walking you through the setup. Sonos shows during setup, if you have a phone with NFC, just tap your phone to the speaker to add it to your system. In theory, this should work great. However, even with Best Buy here to guide me through it, I couldn't get this to work. I've read some other people's experiences with this, and it sounds like for whatever reason, it's tough to set up through NFC. Instead, we paired each speaker to the app through another option where the speaker plays a sound and the app recognizes the sound and pairs it. Through both methods, you have to set up each speaker individually. Still a fairly simple setup, but would have been better if the NFC would have worked. Once you have the speakers added to your app, you can calibrate the speakers using Trueplay. Trueplay uses sound to measure how it reflects off of surfaces in your room, such as floors, walls, and furnishings. When doing this, the speakers sound like they're shooting lasers from one speaker to the next. You use your phone and wave it around the room for it to measure the audio. You might feel a little silly doing this, but it takes about 2 minutes for the speakers to calibrate to your room. Sonos says if you add furniture, remove furniture, or move the speakers, then just retune your speakers using Trueplay. That's pretty much it for setup. You can fine-tune the audio to your preference. The app allows you to make adjustments to the treble and bass. You can also make adjustments to the sub audio and the surround audio, among a few other small adjustments. So I'll start off by discussing the Beam soundbar, as when making a home theater system with Sonos, you start by choosing a soundbar and then added speakers to your system. Sonos offers 3 soundbars to choose from. They went with the good, better, best when offering choice of soundbar. I chose the Beam, which sits between the Ray and the Arc for price and features of soundbars. Sonos markets the soundbars by the size of the TV you're using. For the Beam, it suggests to pair it with TVs up to 55 inches. I'm however using an LG GX 77-inch TV. Not sure why Sonos suggests soundbars based on the size of your TV versus the size of the room you're using it in. Maybe they figure your TV is based on the size of your room and they'll just go off of that. Regardless, I have an open concept living space where the living room, kitchen, and dining area aren't separated by walls. So it's a fairly large room, and the Beam does a good job of filling the whole space with adequate sound. I think the Arc would have been the best choice for this style room, but I didn't think it was worth spending an extra $400 on it. Plus, when I listened to both soundbars in the store, I didn't think the difference was worth the price. If you consider yourself an audiophile, then your opinion on that would probably be different. The Beam comes in 2 different color options, white and black, with a matte style finish on top and a perforated grille that runs along the front and wraps around the side. It can be mounted to the wall if your setup favors that option. The Beam supports Dolby Atmos, which provides a multi-dimensional listening experience. To get a bit technical here for a second, to have true Atmos sound, you would need upward firing speakers to deliver the multi-dimensional sound. The Beam doesn't have that, but gives the impression of that through some digital manipulation. I can't say I've ever really noticed sound coming from above. With this setup, you notice more of the sound coming from the sides and in front of you. Another cool feature with the Beam is you have the option to enhance speech, which amplifies the voices so it's easier to hear what's being said. There's another option called night sound, which reduces the intensity of loud noises and enhances quieter ones. Nice features, especially if you're watching TV and have other people that might be sleeping or don't want to be disturbed by loud noises on the television. On the back, you'll find the main power port, a join button to use during setup, an HDMI port to connect to the TV, and an Ethernet port if you prefer to connect directly to your router versus using Wi-Fi. The controls on top of the Beam allow you to adjust the volume, click play pause, or choose the next or previous song. There's a button to turn on or off the microphone for Alexa, or Google Home, or Sonos voice control. You can easily tell if the microphone is on or off by the status light specifically for the mic. I rarely ever use the touch controls. I'll mainly just use the TV remote to adjust the volume or my phone to pick the next song. On top of the Beam is the main status light, which has a variety of colors that mean many different things. Most of the time, however, it should be a solid white, which indicates it's on and working properly. Sometimes it'll be a solid green, which shows that the speakers are muted. In the app, you can change it so there's no status light if you find the lights distracting. The 2 One SL speakers that sit behind my couch really provide a rich surround sound experience. When not in use, they're fairly discreet looking, but when watching a movie or gaming, you definitely become aware of them. I'm using the Sonos speaker stand with them, which for 2 of them costs around $100. They do a great job of concealing the cable inside and running out at the bottom. The 2 One SL speakers have controls similar to that of the Beam. You can adjust the volume, click play, pause, and skip ahead or go to the previous song. The One SL doesn't have a mic. If you want that option, then you'd have to choose the Sonos One speaker or their new Era speaker, which will probably replace the One and One SL. Like the Beam, it has the same status light on top, which most of the time should be solid white to show it's on and working. On the back of the One SL is an Ethernet port if again you'd prefer to have a direct line instead of using Wi-Fi. There's also a pairing button on the back, no Bluetooth connection with the One SL. The new Era 100 has that advantage, as well as 1 extra amplifier and 1 extra tweeter. I haven't listened to the new Era 100 speakers, so I can't say if they're worth the extra $50, but I have been impressed by the sound that these little One SL speakers produce. The Sub probably will draw the most attention from visitors. People who aren't familiar with Sonos products always ask what it is. The unique slot design, which Sonos refers to as a tunnel, can be used as a handle to move the Sub. Comes in handy as the Sub weighs about 26 pounds. Also, the outside is finished in a glossy black. It looks like it'd smudge or scratch easy, so that's where being able to lift it in the slot becomes useful. Inside the tunnel are dual-facing woofers. This helps reduce rattle and shake by force canceling any vibrations. It works extremely well, as I've tested some songs that have very strong bass and put a quarter on top of the Sub. The quarter doesn't move at all. It's quite impressive to get that level of bass without the typical vibration you get from other subwoofers. The Sub is designed so you can place it vertically against a wall or horizontally on the ground. You just need one side of the slot clear from the obstruction. The front of the Sub features the same status light as the Beam and One SL speakers. Also in front of the Sub is the pairing button. The bottom of the Sub is where you'd connect the power cable and the option for the Ethernet cable. Unlike the Beam or One SL speakers, there are no controls for volume or skipping ahead. You can add up to 2 subs to your home theater experience. I've thought about adding another sub, but for $800, it's quite expensive, and having 1 sub seems to provide more than enough bass. Other than just producing great low sounds, the Sub helps offload those low frequency sounds from other speakers, which in turn allows the Beam and One SL speakers to produce much better mid-range sounds. Okay, so how does the system sound? Well, you can probably guess by me saying that this is one of my favorite things I own. The sound is incredible. Once you watch movies or shows with all the Sonos pieces together, you're not going to want to watch TV any other way. The 2 One SL speakers are primarily used for sound effects such as gunfire, tires screeching, or a door creaking, and other supporting sound effects. It's surprising how such small speakers can add a whole new dynamic to the movie watching experience. Then add in the Sub and you're questioning what's real and what's happening on TV. The first time I watched a movie with a rainy scene, I was convinced there was an actual thunderstorm going on. It convinced our dog too, as she ran under the bed like she normally does during storms. The Sub packs a punch when there are those low sounds or rumbles, yet doesn't sound overpowering. The whole system together is amazingly well balanced, which probably in part is thanks to Trueplay. There's been other times during movies where someone opens a door and it makes me look toward the entrance of the house, half expecting someone to be walking in. It just makes watching movies that much more lifelike. Movies and TV shows sound great, but what about music? Without trying to sound too redundant, music too is incredible. Again, the system is well balanced. You'll notice in bass-heavy songs, the bass is strong but isn't overly done. Songs you've heard hundreds of times, you begin to notice small things that you haven't heard before in other stereo systems. The best way to describe listening to music through the Sonos system is like going from watching standard definition TV to 4K. Everything is just clear and feels like this is how the artist wanted you to hear the music. I've done some light gaming using the Sonos system, but typically I'm using a monitor and headphones. I still feel like for competitive gaming, you're better off using headphones versus a surround sound system. That being said, the surround sound system for single player games or the casual gamer is truly a great experience. I've played Halo and Gears of War using Sonos, and both games sounded amazing. Overall, I'm very happy I invested in the Sonos home theater system. Movies feel more realistic and it's easy to get lost in them with crystal clear sound. It's easy to make adjustments to the audio in the app. Also, if you want to upgrade the system ever, it's as easy as adding speakers to the system or removing some old ones. With having a system that relies heavily on Wi-Fi for connection, the great thing is there are less cables to manage since the Sub and One SL speakers just need to be plugged into an outlet and they communicate wirelessly. The bad thing with this setup, if the Wi-Fi goes out, so does your sound system. This has happened to me a few times. I'd still choose to go with the wireless option, even on the occasion if your Wi-Fi goes out, the Beam still works since it's wired to the TV. It is a bit pricey for this kind of setup, especially now that the Sub is up to $800. I think for what you pay, you get your money's worth. I don't think many people would be disappointed with investing in a Sonos home theater setup. All the speakers work so well together. For sound, it's probably the closest thing you can get to the movie theater experience. And that's it for my thoughts on the Sonos home theater. Thank you for watching another review. Please subscribe and leave a like if you thought it was a good review. If not, let me know what I could improve. Thank you again.